I'm Sonia of Malvern Mindfulness, and I'm with
Jean Nash, also from Malvern Mindfulness.
and we're recording this for you because we were one of the first customers of Becky, and she did speak to us about whether or not we would be happy to share perhaps the experience of our journey, starting and running with Malvern Mindfulness. So this is a little bit about our journey and what we've learned and noticed along the way, and hopefully some things that might be helpful.
Well, we can but try, can't we?
We can.
That's our try. Okay, well, I suppose it would be helpful to just outline how this all got started, really, isn't it? And a little bit about our background. And I don't want to speak for you, although that is frequently what I can do. I'll just speak for myself. So I'm Jean, and my background is in mental health nursing, and I started working in the NHS in around 1978, I think it was. And I met Sonia as she was a student nurse. We were student nurses at the same time. And I retired from the NHS in 2014. So lots of experience working in the field of mental health. And during my time there, I trained in something called dialectical behaviour therapy, which uses mindfulness. And that's where I first came across it. And to teach mindfulness, you have to practice mindfulness. And so I found it helped me personally such a lot. And so I did some further training at the Centre for Mindfulness Research and Practice at Bangor University. And then I spoke to Sonia and we set up Malvern Mindfulness together. And over the years, we've done further training, which has kept us motivated, I think, and interested in continuing. So that's how I came into this kind of situation. And maybe Sonia, you'd like to just...
Yes. As you say, Jean, we often speak for each other. I think part of that is because, my introduction is going to be very similar to Jean's in that, as you've already heard, I was a student nurse at the same time as Jean. And the whole of my working career in the NHS was spent in mental health nursing. And over that time, I worked mainly with older adults. But I included in that was the group working, which I really enjoyed, and also carer support. And alongside that, in my personal life, that was where really I was experiencing more mindfulness in a specific way. In that I was very interested in yoga and practiced that on and off for years. And I used to practice meditation, touched on Buddhism for a little while. And so I was really delighted when Jean asked me, when I was retiring, if I'd share in Malvern Mindfulness, because it kept me in touch with people, with connection with people, which is a very important thing for me. And also I was still working with groups, and I was sharing my passion and building on my passion. I think very importantly, like you just said, Jean, about doing further training. As a result of Jean introducing me to this in this formal way, I've gone on and done training myself. And not only be able to share that over the period of working, but also really experiencing it and valuing it and benefiting personally. So it's been a period of growth.
Definitely. Yeah, both of us, I think. And I do remember when we first were putting this project together, people that know us both were saying it's really not a good idea to go into business with a friend. But I don't know, what do you think, Sonia? Because I feel that we've probably managed that quite well. I think on the whole, you know, and that comes down to just sharing what we feel and what our needs are and what we want and what we're willing to do or not do. And I mean, I don't know what you think, but I think we've actually managed that quite well. I think that kind of merging of friendship and business partner thing hasn't been as problematic as I think some people were expecting it to be.
No, I mean, I think actually the nature of what it is that we're teaching is actually a real benefit, isn't it? Because it's about us being mindful, it's about us noticing, it's about us connecting, it's about really listening and being honest and sharing, and so being in touch with our feelings, our emotions. So, I mean, you know, we were in the right place, really, to be honest with each other and to share. You know, maybe people might have been right had we been doing something else. I don't know, but the nature of what motivates us and how we function and what we're teaching is it all. It's, you know,
yeah, and I think there was a fairly fair divvying up of jobs as well, wasn't there? Because you do the accounts and quite a bit of the admin. I do a lot of the writing of the courses. So there was a sort of fair division of labour as well, I think, which we played to our strengths, didn't we? So I think that was that kind of seemed to work very well, really. And so I think the other thing that we struggled with, well, I certainly struggled with, was this transition from the NHS into business. Because in the NHS, no money ever changes hands. You don't have to negotiate a fee. And I think in the beginning, I found that really difficult in not really understanding what we were worth. And it's only really come gradually, this appreciation of the value of what we do. But it's still difficult to put a monetary value on that for me personally.
Can I interject there? I mean, I'm feeling that I agree with you so much in that also the nature of how we work and you know what it is we've always done, and this reaching out, I guess, in the type of work we do, in like you mentioned in the run up to us doing this, is about asking people to really notice what's going on for them and to actually become quite vulnerable. And so our business is all actually around the caring, the nurturing, the wanting to help. And it just didn't lie with either of us, did it? I'm checking in with you in a business way. So I think this is probably worth us flagging up if you're listening to this because you're starting a business. Is yes, if you're new to actually having to look at the financial side, you know, I mean, we've certainly struggled with this, and yes, we still do, but we have got better at it.
Yeah, but it's very easy to undersell yourself, isn't it?
I think for me, what's made it easier more recently is that I've been asking organisations for money, not individuals.
Yes.
And I think that sits with me a little bit more easily. You know, we haven't made a lot of money from this business. We have earned money, but I think maybe others may have done. But I think again that's partly down to our personalities and this difficulty. So that's something that's worth considering, isn't it?
And also because we're subsidising or we're supplementing rather. Our NHS pensions rather than having to rely on the money. We've been very fortunate in that way, haven't we? And so I think in the early days as well, we did far too much where we didn't charge anything at all. Because we were starting out and we were feeling our feet, and we were invited to go and do talks and little practices with people. And we always hoped, didn't we, that it would lead to proper paid work, particularly in organisations and things. And sadly, that didn't ever really work, did it? For whatever reason, I don't really know why. So I think if we were starting again, I don't think we would do that so much. I think we would just focus on where we were going to get some sense that people valued what we did. I think this is, that's been a bit of a journey, hasn't it, for us, really, and setting those boundaries for ourselves in, we'll do that, but we're not going to do that. And not feel compelled. But again, you see, I think this is that transition from being in a nursing role where there are expectations from others that you will fix things, you will do things, to a role where that's not what you're meant to be doing.
No.
We're just teaching mindfulness now. We're just teaching skills now. We're not fixing people. We're not fixing people's problems. We're enabling them, skilling them up to sort their own things out.
Skills to do it.
Yeah. So that transition from the expectations of the role of a nurse and to support people at the expense of our own health, that took a bit of working out for me anyway. In the early days.
Yeah, I think that sort of brings me on to I did a little bit of scribblings, of ideas before we started to talk this evening. And one of the things for me about doing this as well was wavering confidence. And, I think, you maybe back me up on this, Jean. I think I am a fairly confident person, but there are times, because it was new and because, yes, I had been in the role of a nurse. One of the aspects of nursing is teaching, obviously, but it's one aspect of it. But is that actually standing up there, running groups, teaching this, I would sometimes think, with this sense of, am I a fraud? Do I know more than they do? And I think, the learning process for me as well has been realizing that actually I do know, and I have got life's experience as well as, the formal training and sort of nursing background, all of the experience through that. But is this self-critic that, I think all of us have a self-critic, don't we? Some of us, to a stronger degree than others. And so for me, it's very much as well, this journey into developing a business where I'm a partner and I'm there and delivering teaching has been very much about recognizing that I am okay and I can do this. And you've been a great support for me in that, because you're a great confidence builder. So that's been really helpful for me. But is in what I was teaching as well was being how to, to look at the self-critic, to actually recognize, part of our mindfulness training has been around the self-compassion, one of our courses specifically. And so it has been about, the three core components, the mindfulness, being aware. So I've become a lot more aware of what's going on for me physically, what's this telling me, where my anxiety is lying, what's going on. But also this kindness, this other component, and this is kindness to myself as well as to others, Whereas previously, obviously in my long career as a nurse, predominantly it was always about the kindness for others and I was forgetting about me. And so bringing in that kindness to myself and not being so self-critical and recognizing the common humanity. And I think I touched on how for me it was about the groups and connection. And so this common humanity, the recognition that we're all vulnerable, we're all fallible. And yes, I might not get it all right. And yes, somebody sitting there may know a lot more than I do about certain aspects, but that's okay.
And also, Sonia, when we teach mindfulness, it's not necessarily about the theory. We can understand the theory. We can understand the neuroscience, we can understand the Buddhist philosophy, we can understand the cognitive science. But with all that, we are teaching from an embodied space. It's our truth. It's our passion. It's our values that we role model and teach. And there may be other people in the audience who have a much better theoretical knowledge. But that doesn't take away from our ability and our competence and all those things.
Yeah.
So, but I think that it's taken time for both of us to actually understand that. And also when we were able to share times when we were feeling anxious. Recently teaching up at Birmingham University, I was saying, oh, I'm noticing my stomach's really churning and my throat's gone really dry. Gosh, I think I'm feeling a little bit anxious about teaching all of you here today. That honesty is what it's all about, isn't it, really? You know,
that is so valuable. I mean, I think that's one of the things I've jotted down is this appropriate self-disclosure. And we've had lots of feedback in that how valuable that is for people that we're working alongside, that we're working with. Because, you know, instead of them judging themselves so harshly, if they can see, you know, that human fallibility, you know, that we are just the same, you know, we're just sharing about some skills that we've learned about, that we experience, that we practice and embody, then that makes us much more approachable. And it really does help you know, our business.
Yeah. And I think that the other thing that we've discovered is this need for flexibility. And I think that came particularly during COVID and lockdown, where we very suddenly had to move from doing face-to-face contact with people to going online and delivering courses online, something we had never, ever done before and had never actually wanted to do before. But suddenly it had to be done. And what did we discover? We discovered that actually it's fine. It's actually, you know, in some ways a whole lot easier. So that ability, I think, to be flexible, if we were to summarize our journey over the last 10 years, it's the need to be flexible, a need not to make hasty decisions, a need for honesty. What else? A need for boundaries. And that it has to be meaningful. It's not just about the monetary.
No, for me,
reward.
It has got to reflect my core values.
Yeah,
it really has. But that's one of the lovely things that we would suggest to you, you know, in you starting your businesses, is to really check in. You know, is because it isn't just about the money, is it? It is about, you know, our experience of every day. You know, this whole thing about living every moment and experience every moment. You want it to be as good as it can be. You know, we all have limitations. We all have, there are boundaries that are imposed on us as well. And there are things that we have to do, some things that we can't change, aren't there? Some things we can change. But yes, is to doing the best that we can,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, being true to ourselves
And value what you do.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, another point that has been really useful for me, and so I wanted to share it, is this about our thoughts, because often my thoughts would run away with me, you know, in that I might have completed a practice with one of the groups, and you know, I would be slightly judgmental and think I could have done that better, and that's okay, noticing that something maybe on that occasion, yes, for whatever reason, it hadn't been how I would have liked it to have been. But noticing that apart from that is then my thought processes, you know, that going on to, you know, who am I? Am I good enough? You know, and I'm throwing extra darts at myself, not just that, you know, incident of noticing that something could be improved, but also then, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, you know, etc., etc. So I really like the fact that we've noticed, but not that we've noticed, that we work with our thoughts, you know, and the three things, aren't there, Jean? Do you want to share that? That you always
Okay. Is this thought true?
Yeah.
Is this thought rooted in kindness? And is this thought helpful?
Yeah, yeah. And you know, so I would, you know, encourage you in your journeys to, whenever you're sort of struggling with something, or there are thoughts going on, this your racing mind, etc., just to check in as well. And you know, is what you're thinking true? Is it a fact, or is it something that you're creating yourself? You know, it's taking something that somebody said and running with it.
Yes, yes, yeah. Not always very helpful, is it?
No.
Okay. Was there anything else that we wanted to share in terms of what we've noticed over the last few years that has been really helpful? I think we've covered things like, you know, really not making hasty decisions about what you do and don't do.
We call that sitting with it.
Sitting with it.
Yeah. And we have done that on many occasions, haven't we? It can be from something tiny to something bigger. Is just checking in, and if it doesn't feel quite right, rather than making a decision and then finding out perhaps it wasn't the right decision, is just to sit with it. Just to let it be and then come back to it, checking in. So I think, Jeannie, that's everything that I can think. Oh, I've got here a little phrase, and this has been useful for me as well, is that all things pass.
Yes.
Yeah. So sometimes when we've been having a difficulty or something, and you think, oh, you know, feel like banging your head against a wall or whatever, you know, things aren't going quite the way, just knowing that all things pass, you know, and that's quite helpful.
Thank goodness for that. That's what I say. Okay, so do we need to sum up? I think we've summed up, haven't we?
Yeah, I think you did a good summary just of the main points.
Yeah.
So is that I've really enjoyed, you know, running a business. Never ever thought I would, you know. I must admit, admin's a headache. I'm not a screen person, and I, you know, and my heart goes out to those people who have to sit and look at screens all day long. But the overall, it's been, you know,
and we've become quite tech savvy, haven't we?
Well, not bad, really.
Not bad, really. So that's another skill we've learned. Anyway, right.
So all I can say really is, you know, thanks for listening. If you've made it to the end of this, thank you for listening. And, you know, I certainly wish you well with your endeavours.
Yeah, ditto. All the best. Good luck.